Okay, so the last Sierra snow surveys came out in early April. And so that's the information I was waiting for before I give my annual 2018 Muir Trail conditions report. And a lot of people are looking for snow information, but that's not the only thing you need to worry about. So I'll try to cover everything. We were in a pretty severe drought. I don't think we got one day of rain in the whole month of February, so it was looking really bad. We were in the 20% range. We had a semi-miracle March, lots of snow, but it still only brought us to about 50 to 60% of normal, depending on which part of the Sierra you're looking at. Central was a little higher, around 60. Northern and southern were about 50. So there's going to be snow. It's not going to be dry. But it's not going to be as dangerous as it was last year. So these are my best guesses just from experience being in this year in the springtime. Of course, last year was really dangerous. We had 200% of snow, and we lost 2 hikers. One on the JMT on the Kings River crossing, which I crossed before as a rock hop, and one in northern Yosemite. So there are real dangers. So I'm glad people are watching, concerned about the snow conditions. So last year, June, July was the dangerous months. We had some drought years where people were getting out in June a lot. That's not normal. Usually, I wouldn't even hit the trail until mid-July or later. This year, you can probably get away with some early July stuff. You're still going to have lots and lots of snow. Even into August, some of the passes are going to have snow. The usual ones are like the north side of Muir always has snow in it into August. Forester may have a little, Mather, maybe Glen, but they're not going to be dangerous. So the good news is with good weather, we're still getting a little snow. In fact, it's snowing today, but we're not going to get any more big storms. But if you're going early especially, you're going to need to be prepared for snow travel. So with that, not that much snow, the Pacific Crest Trail people are already on the trail. And if we don't get any later storms, they're going to provide us with a good boot track. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a compass or a GPS, because there will be some snow travel through July, most likely, even into mid-August. So the PCT is more crowded than ever. There was 3,500 people that started in Mexico last year. And they've actually had to do a quota for the first time where they're only allowing 50 people a day. So they're starting to go through right now, and the first ones are going to be coming through at the end of this month and into May, and they should provide a pretty good boot track. But it all depends on the spring. If we have a hot spring, the thaw can happen. The thaw usually happens in a couple of weeks in most areas except the passes. So when the thaw does hit, when you're on the trail and it starts to get real hot, the streams are going to get high. And there will be a couple of dangerous crossings. And like I said, the Kings was one where we lost a hiker last year, and that's typically not a horrible crossing, but it can be when the ice out happens, when everything melts if you get a heat wave. If we have a cooler spring, things will melt out slower and the passes will hold snow a lot longer. So these are my best guesses. From 50%, 60% snowpack, I would say the only ones you're going to have to even get wet on in mid-July and past mid-July is the Bear River crossing and the Evolution Creek crossing. But go downstream on the Evolution. There will be signs. The rangers will post signs. And early season hikers may have to take the King's alternate route. The rangers will be really good about posting it. There's an alternate when it's really high. But don't cross any streams if you don't feel safe about it. Do not do it by yourself. Make sure that some other people are around. Walk up and down to see if there's an easier way across. Make sure you know what's downstream so you're not going to get sucked under a log jam, something like that. Be really careful about that. Do a little research about how to cross a stream safely. I actually have a video on how to cross rivers safely. It's not great, but it'll give you some basic advice. So the other thing about crossing streams is that if they're really high in the afternoon, if you just camp there and wait till the morning, they go down substantially overnight. When things cool down, the melt slows down, streams go down, then you can cross safely in the morning. So that's your biggest danger. But on to some other things that you need to worry about. Where to get condition reports later. It's early. Like I said, these are my best guesses. So I'm thinking the trail will be good July 15 and later for average experienced hikers. Before that, June hiking is for the experienced. There's going to be snow bridges. There's going to be a lot of navigation. So be aware of that and get the latest conditions before you go. So where do you get conditions? The park sites, Siki, Sequoia Kings Canyon, Yosemite, they put things on their website. They're not very up to date. So that's not really a good spot to get it. PCT has a really good website that does snow conditions. That's a decent place. By the way, the PCT is one and the same with the JMT for most of the trail, except for a short section around Thousand Island Lake and Red's Meadow. So that's a good place to get some snow reports. The best place to get snow reports, PCT bloggers. Everybody's doing it now. So find somebody who's going now, start following them. And some of these PCT reports are awesome. I followed 2 people last year. It was fun following along with them, and they were really good, high quality, and you get really up-to-date snow information. So check the PCT bloggers out. So the passes, they're going to hold snow probably into August. So you know, Muir in June will be a 5-mile walk to the summit. In July it might be a 2-mile walk, and by August it might be just, you know, several hundred yards. Depends again on the heat and the speed of the thaw. So right now Tioga Pass will probably be open mid-May. The Tuolumne Meadow store just announced that they are opening May 25th. They usually don't announce they're going to open unless they're pretty confident the road's going to be open at least a week before. So water for you later season hikers. Obviously, anybody that leaves into July doesn't have to worry about water at all. I would never even carry more than a liter of water. Why carry all that extra water? The JMT is full of water, except for a couple of stretches. The later season guys, there's only a couple of stretches of trail. Like I think from Sunrise Creek past the Half Dome Junction to Sunrise High Sierra Camp or Cathedral Lakes. That's the kind of dry section. You might need a couple. It's a big climb. It can be hot. You'll go through a lot of water. And from Red's Meadow to Deer Creek to Purple Lake is another notorious dry section. Other than that, there is water everywhere. You don't need a lot of water. Some of the small streams will be dry by September, but there's still not going to be a shortage of water. So don't worry about water. Make sure you treat your water because lots of people are using the trail now. So you don't want to get giardiasis. So with the late snow, it's hard to tell how fast it's going to melt. But that with melting snow and warmer temperatures comes mosquitoes. So people have been asking me, how are the mosquitoes going to be? That one's hard to predict too. There's going to be mosquitoes. In July, it'll be absolutely miserable unless you have a head net or use some kind of repellent. But that's a beautiful time to be in the Sierra because the wildflowers are spectacular. So bring a head net, maybe some light gloves, or chemical treatment. Some people don't like those, and be careful with that DEET. It can really damage your equipment too. It's besides yourself, it's some strong stuff. So again, if you get in areas, you'll kind of find an elevation zone where there will be a lot of mosquitoes. In June, July, down low, they're going to be in the lower meadowy areas around lakes. So choose your camping spots wisely. Maybe you don't want to camp near water, or find a different, if an area is infested with mosquitoes, maybe go up higher or lower. Sometimes it can change. By usually, and it's a kind of a drier year this year, usually mid-August, the mosquitoes start going away almost everywhere. You'll see a few, but they're not even a nuisance. By September, they'll be almost gone completely. You might have a very few places where you see a few mosquitoes. So you September hikers, you don't have to worry about mosquitoes, but you don't get the spectacular wildflowers either. So, but it's really nice to hike without mosquitoes. So just be prepared for those. And one last thing on things that people have to worry about on the resupplies. The really early season people, Tuolumne Meadow Store is going to be open May 25th. Reds will probably be open about the same time frame. MTR probably a couple weeks later. Check their websites. Vermilion Valley Ranch is the one that's a good go-to for late season hikers. MTR typically doesn't announce their closing date until like September or August, so check their closing dates, usually about the 3rd or 4th week of September. So that's a really important resupply point in late in the season. But if they're closed, you can do VVR. They're the first to open, the last to close. So you can always get a resupply there. But it's a long way to go to get all the way to Whitney Portal on 10, 11 days worth of food. It's hard to even carry all that. So the other options for your late season resuppliers is going out over Onion Valley, over Kearsarge Pass, and you have two options there. I don't know the details of it, but Parchers Resort, P-A-R-C-H-E-R-S. They'll hold a package for you. They're located near the trailhead, a few hundred yards away from the trailhead. And the other one is the Mount Williamson Resort. They have a deal where they'll pick you up, you spend the night, and then they'll drive you back to the trailhead, and you can pick up a resupply at Independence there or have it shipped to them. So those are your options there. For people that are going really late, usually September is pretty good weather, but the days are shorter and it gets colder, so you're going to need more layers, heavier, a better parka, things like that, gloves, a beanie. That you should still use most of those things in the summer. But even in August, we can get snow in the Sierra, and it's typical to have a couple of days around 30, even in August. So, but in September, it's really likely that you'll have some down into the 20s. And I've backpacked into mid-October many times. Sometimes it can be 80 degrees and nice, and sometimes it can be dangerous and life-threatening. So the later in the season you get, especially late September, keep an eye on the weather, talk to people, maybe even consider bringing something like an inReach where you can get a weather report, because late September is when a big storm can come in where you have to bail. So know your bailout points, where all the trailheads, I call them escape routes. And do not hike into a blizzard. If it starts snowing and you decide to bail out and you get a blizzard on a pass, you lose the trail, you're going to die. You'll fall off a cliff or not be able to set up or not be able to get dry. It's really dangerous. So you need to carry equipment to be able to, when a storm comes in, just to stay put, ride it out a couple days. Usually mid-September storms clear out after a couple days and it's fine. Last September I was hiking in northern Yosemite, and we were at 10,000 feet and we got a foot of snow. And it wasn't one that melted off in a couple days either. That was really unusual. It was closer to something you'd see in early October. It wasn't life-threatening or anything, but I knew about the storm beforehand. But just be prepared. In September you can get storms, and if you're a southbound hiker, that means there's going to be ice coming down on Whitney. Even if it just rains, those colder temperatures, you'll get ice on those cables. Travel will be slower. You have to be careful what you're doing. You usually don't have to carry, your crampons are useless late in the season because the snow hasn't compacted or anything like that. But you just got to be aware of those things, check conditions. And the rangers go home in like mid-September, so you're on your own out there. So you have to be self-sufficient. So I always try to err on the side of caution. People do die in the Sierra, and most commonly in late September, mid-October. It's even experienced hikers sometimes don't do something right, or a storm comes in. So that's why I'm being a little preachy on that one, because I had a very unpleasant 3-day, 25-mile hike on a foot of snow last summer, and it's not fun. But I wasn't worried at any time that I was going to die, but it's cold and uncomfortable, and I couldn't fish. That's what I was out there for. So anyway, looks like a great season. We got enough snow to keep the streams going, and the Sierras are there's a lot of underground springs, and with the snow we got last year, kind of recharged the water tables up there. So I'm not seeing any chance of like major streams drying up or anything like that. So grab your stuff, start planning, get your fishing stuff ready, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Like I said, this is my best guess. It's too far out really to get the best condition reports. But look up those websites I gave you, especially the PCT bloggers, which you can probably find some right now. And hit me up with any questions if you have any, and I'll try to answer them. All right, and have a good trip. Happy trails.